Hello, I'm Tim Harris. This is Julie Harris, and this is Real Estate Coaching Radio.
That's right. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. Thanks again for popping by. Hit that like button, and don't forget to leave your comments and questions so we can get right back with you.
We will. Thank you for continuing to make our podcast, Real Estate Coaching Radio, the #1 listened to podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. And let us know what you think about this video. Leave your comments below. Thank you.
We are back, and Julie Harris, we are continuing on the unofficial theme that we have for this week's podcast, which is about scripts
Yes.
for this real estate market, because the scripting that you need to have, if you've ever had scripting at all in your real estate business, is significantly different than it was just 24 months ago, and frankly, even 12 months ago.
This is true.
Right. So when we're going through what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through some actual scripts, but some techniques. In other words, the logic and the thinking behind them. Now, we'll start out by saying this. Everybody uses scripts, whether they're formalized scripts that you've learned over time or whether they're scripts you just sort of made up. So if you're just getting started in real estate, or frankly, if you've only sold real estate in the last 15 years and you're now realizing you need to relearn what you thought you knew to be successful in real estate, here's a little suggestion for all of you. Start with proven scripts. And then what you want to do is memorize the scripts, internalize the scripts, and then you need to personalize the scripts. Those of you who are going right to the personalization of your scripts, picking up a little script here, picking up a little script there, thinking of, basically winging it, this market's not going to suffer that for very long, because you need to be very drilled down, need to be focused, and need to, frankly, not risk losing a deal, because guess what? Deals are becoming harder to come by. 4.1 million home sales are projected for this year, and it hasn't been that few of home sales since 2008. So do not risk losing a transaction over, frankly, not knowing what to say.
That's very well put, Tim. And I would say it's not just for the newbies. Some of our grizzled veterans are finding themselves a little bit stymied by changes in the market. What do I say? How do I say it? How do I speak positively when I'm feeling like I'm kind of freaking out myself in some cases? So you nailed it on the head when you said, everybody uses scripts even though they're made up sometimes. But worse than making up your own scripts that are unproven is sometimes not saying anything at all or not talking about real estate at all because you're not sure where the conversation is going. We call those lovingly secret agents, but secret agents don't do very many deals. So today we're going to talk about 4 of the most common things you'll have to deal with, how to deal with them correctly, some basic scripting.
Your elite coaching clients, the
Yes.
people that are qualifying to be in your coaching schedule, I would, because I've listened to some of your calls before, are you surprised? And most of them that are coming to you are successful by all measures. They've been successful, some of them for 10 or, maybe,
Quite successful, yes.
Right. And they've made millions and millions of dollars. But are you surprised how basic a lot of the conversations you're having with these guys is? You know what I mean?
I do. A basic in the sense that we're going back to basics in a way where it's keeping, I would say the overriding theme with our more successful, longevity agents is reminding them that it's okay if a listing takes like 30 days to sell, and don't be suicidal of it, because what it does, I've noticed, is you're having to have more conversations, more complicated conversations, and then it can demotivate them from wanting more.
Right, of course. But then also the fact that a lot of them are coming to you having or essentially allowed themselves to feel vulnerable, admitting that they don't know what the market might think that they knew. In other words, they're allowing themselves to be, I said vulnerable, but it's conscious incompetence, really.
Conscious incompetence and introspective.
Right, and that's really important. And all of us need to be putting ourselves in that position, no matter whether it's, obviously with real estate or just anything else. Always look for opportunities to find your blind spots, because that's where your growth is always going to be. If you're just essentially resolute that you know what you know and what you know is good enough and it's going to get you through whatever market, whatever the market has in store for us, you will most likely experience a lot of headwinds that you otherwise could have avoided if you're willing to be adaptable. And adaptable and versatile, that's really what scripting truly is. So I want you to be really clear in your minds. A script is not just read it this way, do it this way.
No.
You must do it this way. Don't think that's what a real good script is. What a script is in essence a conversation outline, and it is again in the order of. And this is Julie and I's core belief about scripting. You do have to memorize it first, Memorize it, not in the sense that you can memorize it like you just say it without having it in front of you, but memorize it at least so that if it's in front of you, you have comfort with what's going to happen next in the script. So it's not, you've practiced it, you're familiar with it. The best way to do that, by the way, is using scripts on real clients.
Yes.
Then after you've memorized it, then you internalize it. And by the way, the memorization and the internalization happen simultaneously, and then personalize it. I said it a second ago, but it's really critical that you get it in your head. If you want to avoid the pitfalls that many agents are suffering from in this market, just follow the proven path up the market, up the mountain, and not try to create your own. And one of the best proven paths, or for those of you who frankly qualify, is to hire Julie Harris as your personal coach. And without going into a lot of detail, if you're interested in having Julie Harris as your personal coach, I'm going to give you a couple little, notices. Number one, she's very selective in who she's going to personally coach. Number two, she's not cheap. And number three, she's frankly going to be very, again, back to point one, selective in who she's going to personally coach. So if you are ready to be personally coached by who many consider the number one real estate coach in the nation, Julie Harris, you can text me directly at 512-758-0206, 512-758-0206. And when you text me, give me a little bit of background information on yourself. Those of you who know you're ready for Julie, you self-identify every time I say this on the podcast, which is infrequently, because I always get these really great texts from people.
I love the backgrounds.
Exactly, the background. I've been in the real estate business for this long, and I have this background, I've sold this many houses, and I've been through these different types of markets. So if you know who you are, and you know you're ready for Julie as your personal coach, so do just text me directly at 512-758-0206. So Julie, let's start out with 4 rules.
Yes, that's right. So we're going to talk about how to handle some basic questions that will hear all the time in your real estate practice, whether you are a grizzled veteran, a newbie, or anywhere in between. The theme here is stop being a secret agent. Talk about real estate all the time. Be comfortable talking about real estate all the time. You will then set more appointments and close more deals, which means 100% of you listening need these rules. So 4 rules. Number 1, and again, this is when you're talking about real estate, then we'll get to some scripting.
But these are good rules, by the way, for just life in general, right?
I agree completely. Number 1, always be positive. Number 2, concentrate on who you are talking to. Make it all about them, not about you. Point number 3, your mindset is always about how you can be of service. How can you be a problem solver?
Rule number 4, remember that people move because of their circumstances, not because of market conditions. I'm going to read that again because it's incredibly important. People move because of their circumstances, not because of market conditions. There are always opportunities to help people buy and sell real estate. The market is shifting, not crashing. Keep all your drama tucked in. Again, people move because of their circumstances. In other words, there a lot of folks, and yes, there has been some people that have taken themselves out of the market for a variety of reasons. All of those people are going to, like say for example, we used this as an example yesterday. Maybe like you're a millennial. Maybe you are married and now you're having your not first kid, but your third kid. And that little 2-bedroom condo you and your spouse bought when you first got married was you made it work for 1 kid or maybe 2 kids. I mean, there's such things as bunk beds, but I've never seen, what would it be? Tri-beds?
Toddler bunk beds.
Well, no, I mean, if you have 3 beds on top.
Yeah.
No. I've never seen that before. But in any event, so you are now realizing you need a new house. That is not something that your need for more space is not is going to take priority over the interest rate, over politics, over a lot of the other things that you, listener, real estate agents, think are people's priorities. Priority number 1 for most people is comfort and convenience. It's actually not money. So don't get stuck in your way of thinking about real estate. People buy homes to live in primarily. And if it turns out to be a great investment for them, which it almost always does, then go them.
Bonus. Exactly. So question number 1. First, we're going to do the questions you'll be dealing with, and we're going to talk about what to say and what not to say. 4 common questions about and how to answer them. So question number 1, how's the market? Here's 3 things not to say. Then we'll talk about what you should say. How's the market? Do not say, well, it's come to a screeching halt lately with all my showings ever since rates changed, and then go into interest rate drama. Tim just showed you a great example of people that don't necessarily care about that.
Don't even say that to other agents, because all you're going to do is you're going to find somebody else that's going to,
commiserate with you.
You're going to be commiserating in such a way that's going to really screw up your mindset, and that bad mindset then
it's infectious.
It can last not just days, but it can last years. Do not say,
My last closing was a real nightmare. You won't believe what happened. And then go into it about inspections, about appraisal, about financing, how you hate the other agent. Nobody cares. Don't talk about it.
Do not say, I'm waiting for it to crash like everyone else. I mean, these are all funny things that Julie found on.
Yeah, but you hear this. You see this
Totally.
posted on the social media stuff. Don't believe it, and much less don't say it.
Well,
it's not happening.
On Instagram, and you guys can follow us on Instagram at Tim and Julie Harris. I've had people, when we've done podcasts like this, who will message me, and they're always, I've never had, very respectful, nice people.
Yeah.
Long-time listeners, most of them. So what the questions they'll ask me is, like, they're looking for reasons to believe the real estate market's going to crash. And I look for reasons the real estate market's going to crash as well, as does Julie, because we want to prepare you if we do believe that's going to happen, but we're seeing no evidence that that's going to happen.
We'd tell you.
But what will happen on Instagram or other places people will message is that they are looking for reasons why to believe that the market's going to crash, like things are going to get worse. And when I give them the statistics and I give them the facts and I maybe send them some links to past podcasts where we're stating our case for why there's no reason to believe that's going to happen. And usually that is all it takes. Just they need to, balance out their negativity with some positive and realistic information.
And facts.
But yes, in facts. But here's the question I ask for all of you. What about you makes it so you're attracted to negative? What is your benefit from being attracted to negative information? No, there's no benefit. Yes, there is, or you wouldn't do it. You're not stupid. So you are being attracted to negative information and hanging out with other people with, essentially are commiserating, to use Julie's word, in the same stew. Why is it that you're attracted to that? What's your benefit? Stick with the word benefit. Don't change my word, listeners. Well, here's the answer. Because when you are believing that tomorrow is going to be worse than today, right? If you do not believe that tomorrow is going to create more opportunities than today, what does that give you permission to do today? And the answer is, and a lot of you don't like this word, but it is true, you give yourself permission not to work hard. You give yourself permission to be lazy. You give your permission to not do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do at the highest level. After all, tomorrow is going to be a shit show, so why should I really drill down today? That's how a lot of people, that's the problem with essentially hanging out with negative people, because it manifests and what you're doing is you're actually, it's kind of the law of attraction in reverse. You're actually attracting the negative to you because that's where your dominant thoughts are and where your dominant actions will follow. And hopefully you guys are understanding what I'm saying, because it's really critical.
Which brings us back to that first rule, always be positive.
Yep.
Right? That's why we have the 4 rules. All right, so again, back to the question, how's the market? We talked about what not to say. What should you say? The market is changing, but it's still great. I've been really blessed to help so many people over the past year. I'm glad you asked. I've actually set a goal of helping 3 more families buy or sell real estate this month. Who do you know who could use my help? What are you most curious about? And then be quiet and listen to their answer. So look at how that script goes. I'll do it one more time. First, you're showing a positive outlook. You're showing gratitude. I've been really blessed to help so many people over the last year. I'm glad you asked. In fact, I've set a goal of helping 3 more families. Here's you being of service, right? Remember the second rule.
Helping, keyword, helping.
Yep, I've set a goal of helping 3 more families buy or sell real estate this month. Whom do you know who could use my help? Then be quiet. And what are you most curious about? Okay, they might be an investor. They might have a kid that's a first-time buyer. Who knows? Be quiet and listen to their answer.
And remember, Julie's, one of the first things that she said is do not talk about yourself. Do not talk about yourself, because when you do, people automatically stop listening. People want you to show interest in them. They do not want you to sit around and listen as you show interest in yourself, okay? Yeah. Show interest in them. Ask questions. Show sincere interest. You're here to help. Helping is the key word. And by the way, just by saying that word, it kind of, you start operating on a different frequency, at least in the mind of who you're talking to, because you're no longer someone who's just in it for themselves. If you don't want to come off as a pushy, arrogant, discompassionate, if that's a word, person, the best way to do it is not talk about yourself and ask questions about the person, show sincere interest in the person you're talking to, and sincerely use words like helping. You do all those things in conjunction, you're going to have that certain je ne sais quoi that people, frankly, many people never accomplish that. Why? Because they keep themselves in an egotistical realm where they're just focusing on themselves. How do I feel? How do I think? What's my opinion? I'm really important. Here's how important I am. Here's all of the stuff I know. Nobody cares. They really don't. If they want your opinion on something, you give them your opinion. Make sure you're not, feeding into any negative, unless there's obviously something negative. I mean, if there's an alien invasion happening, there's really difficult to put a good spin on that.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they're looking for land.
Did I mention
We could sell them something.
Did I mention the alien invasion starts with them bringing down a bunch of oddly human-shaped crock pots?
No, exactly.
Okay. So
That guy's in a movie.
they're landing with human crock pots, right? They're
Yeah,
not
well,
allowed-
then you're having a totally different script.
Yeah,
I haven't got that podcast written yet, but we'll help you if that happens.
That's a bad day. Well, you guys get the point, right? All right.
Okay, so question number 2. How long have you been in real estate? Now, before we get to what not to say and what to say, note to self. The more professional you are, the less likely you're going to get that question. How long have you been in real estate? Dress well, learn your scripts, and know what's actually happening in the market versus just the headlines or the gossip. Knowledge equals confidence, ignorance equals fear. So have some talking points. That's one of the reasons you listen to this podcast. So back to the question, how long have you been in real estate? Well, do not say, well, I just got my license last month or yesterday. Or I just won the Platinum Award. They don't know what that means. Or I've sold more homes than anybody else in my office. These are things not to say. And I covered our bases on newbie answers and more grizzled veteran answers.
Well, but here's the thing you guys got to understand. Other than those of you who just got your licenses yesterday, that question really doesn't mean anything to the person asking it. The consumer does not know how to actually value your they're just asking that question to be conversational.
Exactly.
So don't take it that seriously. So, for example, you can, and we run into them all the time. How long have you been in real estate? 10 years. Well, that doesn't really tell you anything. So how many houses have you sold in the last 10 years? 3, right? You guys get it? Yeah. So what you do is you pivot that question and you answer the question in such a way that you are going to, like, say, for example, you're with eXp Realty. And let's say in your particular market, eXp Realty sold last month, 1,000 homes in your particular market. You can, if you're a brand new agent, you can use the we opposed to the I. Like, well, I'm so glad you asked that question. And, I joined with eXp Realty because in our market last month, we sold over 1,000 homes. Now, I've been selling real estate now for less than a year, but I have to tell you, the momentum I have right now is fantastic. By the way, who do you know who's thinking about buying or selling real estate? So do not lie, but you don't have to necessarily think you have to give them a very analytical answer because they're not writing down and keeping score. It doesn't work like that.
And they don't know what's a good answer and what's not a good answer anyway. It's just conversational. And I like how you answered it, but then you turned it around and made it about them again, following one of our rules, right?
So let's go on to question 3. How many homes have you sold last year? Now, this is another, again, you might get that question, you might not. That's going to be a question that is, the consumer doesn't know how to value the answer. And you can lean back into the answer being something about what your brokerage had done, or you can, if you did sell a lot of houses. But again, you got to remember the consumer doesn't know how to value your answer, so don't get stuck on that. But if you are getting questions like this, which frankly you very rarely will get questions like this, even on a listing appointment, it's because you did not prepare prior. So if you get a question like this on a listing appointment, it's because you did not send a pre-listing pack ahead of time, because you did not pre-answer all these, kind of confrontational questions that might come out of the seller's mind prior to you getting to the house. That is your lack of preparedness.
I agree with that. And sometimes the version of this comes up for more experienced agents that are maybe in a higher price range. And maybe somebody says, how many homes in my neighborhood or my price range have you sold? Well, back to preparedness. Maybe there's only been 2 sales in that entire price range or that neighborhood in the past 24 months. So you better know your stats. Otherwise, they might know better than you, and you could be BSing them, basically.
I don't want to, how do I say this? It is important, obviously, those of you who have success, those of you who have experience. But you got to remember what Julie and I's background is. In our first year in real estate, in our early 20s, when we looked like we were about 12, we sold 103 homes. Now, we sold 103 homes competing against very, well-entrenched agents in a very well-established market. And for every year thereafter, we sold between 100 and 200 homes. Now, why am I telling you that? Because by the time Julie and I had been in real estate for 2 or 3 years, we'd sold hundreds of homes. So hell yeah, we bragged about how many houses we sold. And we compared our sales experience to agents that basically had sold, virtually nothing. The average agent in Columbus when we were selling real estate, I think, was selling like 8 houses a year, and we were selling always over 100. So the moral of the story of what I'm trying to share with you is the consumer very rarely would look at the number that Julie and I were telling them and give a damn about the 100 or the 200, whatever it was that we'd sold the previous year.
You got to bring it back to how you're going to help them.
Exactly.
That's what they care about.
They don't care about those numbers. Those are real estate agent brag numbers. Because what Julie just said, we would sometimes in our first year, as we were, or really our second or third year, as we started to lean in too much the numbers, as we started believing the numbers in our previous success, would win us the listing. I hope you're listening, top producing agents, because this is going to happen to you. We would then start essentially bragging about what our success was. We sold this many houses. We did this, we did this, we did this. Because after all, we worked our asses off to accomplish it. We figured they put value on it. Very, very few, 99% did not give a rat's ass about our previous sales experience. They wanted to feel comfortable with us. They wanted to like us. They wanted to feel they could trust us. And they wanted to know that we were in alignment with what their goals were, which, by the way, was something, is something, all those things. An agent who's never sold a single house can also basically instill in that potential seller or that potential buyer. But it does go back to your, you have to have a pre-listing pack. You have to pre-qualify. You have to take a professional approach. Once people like you, once they feel connected to you, and not even a very meaningful way oftentimes, you're done. You're going to get the listing. You're going to get that client to work with you. And there's a whole bunch of research that's always been done that shows that most consumers will work with the first agent that they meet. I want you to think about that. Meet face to face. Meet voice to voice.
Who is a professional?
Not meet, I got an email. Not meet, I got a text. Not meet, I got a postcard. Face to face. That's the reason that, frankly, Julie and I, when we were in our 20s, were able to win at such a high level so quickly because of the fact that we did a ton of face-to-face. We had no centers of influence in past clients. We had no previous sales background. We were in college prior to that. We had no reason, there was no reason to believe, there was no coaching. Oh, I'll tell you this, there was no internet.
The MLS wasn't online.
Exactly. The MLS.
You had to actually, which in what we're talking about, being face-to-face, was a blessing because you pretty much had to be face-to-face.
Now,
right?
we were in real estate, selling real estate, when the consumer internet, like in 96, 97, really started to spin up. And our URL, timandjulieharris.com, if those of you guys are super nerds, you can look it up. It is an ancient URL because we bought it really before agents started buying their own URLs. We understood the power of it. And we did a bunch of internet marketing. Julie and I were some of the first people to advertise on Realtor.com. And those of you who do pay-per-click ads, I want you to think about this. This is how sweet it was back in the olden times. Okay, and I remember this. It was a Christmas. I don't remember what year, but it was Realtor.com started. It basically became was part of the consumer internet. You could go into your property listing descriptions, and you could put hyperlinks from your property descriptions to landing pages, and the number of leads that we were able to generate for free from doing that was extraordinary. So what does that mean? It means that you could basically run ads on Realtor.com for free.
It was awesome.
It was awesome, right. And you could do that for maybe about a year, and then they stopped allowing you to do that. You couldn't do direct links out of it anymore. Kind of like on Instagram, you can't really do a link out of your description. You have to put it in your bio or whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about? Same thing. But yes, so we did a ton of internet marketing. So we know all the different facets of lead generation. And obviously, we're still doing a lot of all those things now for our coaching and training business, and coach our agents how to do the same thing, and also our big EXP family as well.
All right, so on to question number 4. Anything you don't know about, insert the question here. Again, back to being a secret agent. Some of you don't talk about real estate because you live in fear of somebody asking you some question that you don't have a clue about, and then feeling a panic attack like you've either got to BS them or expose your ignorance. So stop expecting that everybody needs you to know everything all the time. And this could be, I said insert question here. It could be, I've got a commercial property and you've never done commercial before, so that freaks you out. It could be something in a higher price range. It could be anything. It could be a technical legal answer. Okay, so anything you don't know about, that's the question. Here's the answer. That's a great question, Bob. I'm writing this down and I'll have an answer for you by this evening. What's the best number to reach you tonight?
Now, what if you don't do it that way? What if your ego is telling you that I don't want to be embarrassed by admitting my ignorance and I'm going to bullshit an answer? Well, here's what happens a lot of times. A lot of times people, they'll ask you questions. They haven't put a lot of thought into the question they're asking, and they're probably not even really listening to whatever you say. It's just conversational styles. A lot of people, it's lazy talking in essence.
Filling the silence.
Exactly. A lot of consumers do that. You do that. Everybody does that. So here's a thought for you. When they might ask a question that they actually already know the answer to, or most of the answer to the question, and then when you wing it, or in other words, you lie, that is immediately going to disqualify you for taking the listing. I can give you many examples of, and those of you who've been doing any kind of selling for any amount of time, you'll know what I'm talking about. You will win business, and the person that is choosing you over somebody else, or many other people, will come out straight and tell you, the reason I'm doing business with you is because you did not try to wing it when I asked you a question. They'll actually say, I respected the fact that you needed to think about it and do some research before you answered my question. Or, and this is where really the rubber meets the road, I asked you the same question I asked this other person. I knew this other person did not give me a truthful answer, and you did, so I'm going to list the house with you, or I'm going to do business with you. So what the really important takeaway is, be okay not knowing. And I'll give you guys a personal example. Julie and I took Zoe. She has to go to the doctor for just some sort of medical thing prior to going back in school, and she starts back in school next Friday.
Yep.
And she's in the 4th grade, which is amazing.
It is astonishing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Not that she's in the 4th grade, but that we have an almost 10-year-old.
Not that she actually made it to 4th grade.
She actually is pretty smart. I
Yeah.
mean, so yeah, that doesn't surprise us. So yeah, someone's in the comments. I can't believe that they think their daughter. Anyway, yeah. So we're at the doctor, and the doctor has been our family physician for 5 years, and I'm talking to him about different things, and I asked him a question about a couple things about me. He didn't know the answers, and he wrote them down. And then later that day, he sent us a WhatsApp with the answers. Did the research before giving us the answer.
Gave you the facts.
What the facts. Was not at all embarrassed that he didn't know the answer right when he was sitting in front of us. That is a professional.
Yeah, and don't you feel better that because you would have had a sense if he was kind of maybe making something up or BSing you. I mean, at the very least, you don't want that kind of response from your doctor. And agents complain that they're not treated like professionals. Well, this is one of those reasons, is because you don't answer like the doctor answered you. I will find out for you.
Well, what's more important in that example, Julie, is what if he had basically didn't know the answer, was not wanting to feel embarrassed for admitting that he didn't know the answer, and gave me the wrong answer.
That's what I'm saying.
And it's a doctor, to which I would have followed his wrong advice.
Exactly.
And then some of the agents listening right now are going to be, they're guilty of the same, sin.
That's right.
So guys, listen, these scripts, there's a whole bunch of other scripts. We have dozens and dozens of other scripts.
These are just the most common basic ones you'll hear, assuming you're out there, in the real estate wild, actually talking about real estate.
I will say this though, of all the scripts and all the things that they're going to hear, the number one that they need to work around work with is going to be the how's the market question.
Agree.
Because the how's the market question comes in many different varieties. The only way for you to cut through the bullshit with that question, because everywhere they turn, they're going to be, and this is mostly consumers and obviously agents as well, their heads are full of doom and gloom and negative information. Who cares why? That is what it is. What you need to do is you need to counterbalance that with facts. And Julie and I have done, in the last 6 months, we've probably done 4 podcasts on the facts of what's happening in the market. You need to have those facts at the ready. Maybe just have 3 points. Someone will say, I've heard that the number of foreclosures is increasing dramatically. Or maybe you just got an email from somebody that's trying to sell you some foreclosure list or be an REO agent before the train, all this Mickey Mouse. Well, you're actually going to know the truth. You're going to be able to say, well, here's the interesting thing. Yes, foreclosures increased. That is true. But here's what they increased from. They increased from 2 in our marketplace to 3. So yeah, you could say that was
That's a 50% increase.
Or 33. But yes, you could say that was an increase in foreclosures.
Wow.
But if you're not focusing on the actual, you guys get the point. So make sure you know the numbers, and don't be surprised how few people actually have taken the time to know the information. And if you want the information, just go to our past podcasts. By the way, thanks to all of you who have given us 5-star reviews on iTunes. And please do take the time to do that. Give us a 5-star review on iTunes. And do let the world know why you like the podcast, what you learned from the podcast. And while you're over on iTunes, or you can do this on our timandjulieharris.com or Spotify or really any place else, you can search for specific content that will answer the question, how's the market? You got to know what all these different statistics of what's going on with home sales. We told you some on this podcast. We always do. Those types of, for example, 4.1 million home sales. That's the lowest number since 2008. Well, that sounds bad. Well, not really. In our marketplace, there's this many homes that have sold. The average sale price is this. The average days on the market is this. The average, the houses are selling for this much more than they did over last year. Congratulations, you bought your house 3 years ago. You've now got 50% equity in your house. What?
Right. And the reason there's fewer home sales are all good reasons, because people refinance, they have their house is worth a lot. There's not that much on the market. So if you were to sell today, you basically win the real estate lottery. So there's nothing negative happening right?
Well, should I be buying right now? Is it the top of the market? Obviously, it's not the top of the market. There's this amazing thing called inflation. Inflation hurts when you're going to the grocery store, but it helps when you own assets. So, Mr. Buyer, here's the thing with inflation. Are you seeing or expecting your rent price to go down? Are you expecting, if you own a home, the house to devalue in the next 12 months? Well, there's no reason to believe that.
Nope.
And what we're actually seeing, and here's the statistics. Homes last year in our marketplace were selling for $600, and now the average home is $650. Just like yours, the comps are the same: square footage, bedrooms, baths, condition, right? So I'm not just taking obscure comps to make a point. Now, that means that in the last 12 months, the $600,000 home is now worth $650. That homeowner basically had, a pretty damn good return, and basically a 10% return on that investment. And if you factor in what they paid for the house, what their payment on the house is, rather, because of the appreciation, the inflation on that house in the last 12 months, they basically live for free. That $600,000 house probably cost that owner less than $50,000 to live in. The inflation, you guys get what I'm getting at here? That's the type of information that when you have it at your fingertips, you will find people are going to be attracted to you like you cannot flip and believe, because you are a reliable source of information. And especially if they own a home, you're always the purveyor of wonderful news. You're always telling them that they're smart. You're always telling
You're
them
like Santa of real estate.
You are. They're going to seek you out. They're going to see you in a room of 1,000 people, and they're going to say, there's Bob. Every time I talk to Bob, he makes me feel good because he tells me how smart I was to buy this house 12 months ago.
Well, that's right, because you are training them when they have, maybe they have a 3 a.m. real estate night sweat. Gosh, I saw some crazy headline. I better call Bob and ask him what's actually going on.
So you get back to the buyer and you say, Mr. Buyer, this in 12 months, there's every reason to believe homes are going to inflate even more. Rent prices are going to increase even more. And let's say, for example, you don't like today's interest rate. Well, then guess what? You're not locked in. You're not locked into it for life. You can refinance if the rates go down. But the main thing here is when you have a property that comes up that meets maybe 75 or, let's be honest, 50% of your needs, you need to jump on that and lock that property in, because it gets you into a position where you're going to start building equity. Well, for free, by the way, because of inflation. Those types of thoughts are the ones that you guys should embrace. And when you awash yourself with all this type of information, how do you feel, listener? You feel what? Educated, motivated. Now you got to go get into action. And that is the power of knowing the facts. That is the power of scripting yourself in such a way that people are going to love hearing what you have to say. So hopefully this podcast benefited you. And again, please do us a favor and leave us a 5-star review over on iTunes with a comment on why you love the podcast. Anything else you'd like to say to these guys?
Well, just reminding them that knowledge equals confidence and ignorance equals fear. So hopefully we have sprinkled enough knowledge on you so you can go out and speak confidently when you hear those questions.
You guys have a fantastic day. You can listen to us anytime via past podcasts. There's literally over 2,000 shows on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Prime, Google Music, all the different places, and of course over on YouTube. So go give them a listen. Have a fantastic day.
Hello, thank you for having watched this video. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
That's right, and don't forget to hit that like button, leave your comments and questions below, and we will get right back with you.
Thank you for watching this video, and remember to watch the next one. You're going to love that one.